Welcome to Retiring Today. This is a special episode of Retiring Today because we are launching our first magazine. The magazine is called Retiring Today, Your Retirement Milestone Guide. So we'll talk about the magazine today, but don't worry, we're going to talk about some really important educational things that will help set you up for retirement, including financial milestones that come with each age, choices that deserve your attention, action steps you can take now. Plus, we'll talk about how you can get a copy of the magazine. So here it is. This is the cover of our first magazine, Adventurous Angie. That's our cover story. You can see her there. We'll be hearing from her today throughout the show. And we did an interview with her for this magazine, and she will inspire you to make the most out of retirement. I'm Molly Nelson here with Clint Hunt-Rods and Lauren Merkel. They get to help people make the most out of retirement every day. They're both certified financial fiduciaries. Clint is a PhD and Lauren is a certified financial planner. Lauren, this is something that we've been talking about for a long time at Merkel Retirement Planning. And you've got to be excited to finally see us launching this first magazine.
This is an extremely exciting day. We've been talking about this, I think it's been 3 years. Every year the team gets together at the end of the year and we talk about what are different ways we can communicate retirement planning messages more effectively. And what we discovered is people like to consume information in different ways. We already obviously have a TV show, we have a YouTube channel, we've written a couple books, we communicate and educate in so many different ways, but we have not created a magazine until right now. So I'm really proud of the effort of the team to put this together, and I'm really proud of all of the information that we put out there around retirement planning, because retirement planning is extremely challenging. People don't do retirement until they actually do retirement, and you're thinking about different things all the way leading up to it. So the messages, the information, the educational information in the magazine is so pertinent to people listening right now to this TV show, and I'm very excited to be able to get that into your hands.
I'm glad you mentioned educational information because the guy over here, he spent 10 plus years of his career teaching as a PhD. So you've got to be excited about one more tool to help people learn about retirement.
Yeah, we know often people will learn through stories. And so that's where I love that we bring in Angie's story, and that starts to bring her retirement to life. Helps you to take some things away from that. Then we've also got the milestone guide and the income planning sheet. Ways that you can start to think about what does retirement look like to you? Are you on track at these different ages that you might be at? And then maybe what is income going to be like in retirement when you start to calculate some of your expenses, the different sources that you have. So a lot of great tools in there for families to kind of take a stock of where they're at and start to think more about what it's like to have a retirement plan.
And generally magazines are supposed to be entertaining, right? So we chose a very entertaining woman.
We chose the right
It's
one.
Angie Jensen. So I have so many things I could say about Angie, but just real quickly before we hear from Angie is she's kind of newly retired. She worked 47 years for the same company, had a really great career, worked her way up through this company, and she sat down with us to share her journey for this magazine. And you guys, this is one of my favorite things that she had to say about her outlook on retirement.
I don't have one bucket list. I have bucket lists. So my things that are on my bucket list, a hot air balloon ride. And I want to just go to the hot air balloons that are happening here in Iowa. I want to go to the state fair 1 or 2 days straight and find out and see the whole state fair, because I don't think you could see that all in one day. So those two things are on my bucket list. And other things that are on my bucket list is just to learn new things. So I've talked about maybe with my coworkers, hey, tell me about pickleball. I'd like to learn how to do that. And I find out all these people know how to play. I want to learn. So I want to learn that. And then, of course, hey, then you have the one side where you have all these things you need to do at your home that you never had time for. And so that bucket list is not sometimes fun, but it is when you get the end result of, hey, finally I get this done in my home. It looks great now. My she shed is organized now, where I never had time to. So those were just some of the things I have on my bucket list.
I just love that, you guys. She doesn't have a bucket list. She has bucket lists.
And that's why you called her Adventurous Angie.
Oh,
Right?
she's so adventurous. I'm happy to report this summer, I just talked to her this week. This summer she did make it to the Iowa State Fair. She sent, oh, here it is, a pork chop on a stick. She had a pork chop on a stick. That's such an Iowan thing to do at the Iowa State Fair. She is living her best life in retirement.
Was there any doubt she actually made it to the state fair? She's probably also going to do the hot air balloon and whatever else is on her bucket list. What I really like about that, though, is that she's realistic, right? There's some big items that she really wants to do, but then she also talked about cleaning out her shed.
Yep.
And that's a part of retirement too, is most people who retire now have a list of things you might not want to do, but you really have to do, need to do. And you mix that in, you balance that in with some of these bucket list items, some of these bigger items, and that's retirement. That's real life. And now it's about how to plan for it.
And so often the financial components get talked a lot when it comes to retirement planning, but the lifestyle is the central part of retirement that you're looking forward to. And so that's where we want to serve as the foundation to your plan, is what do you want retirement to look like? What's on your bucket list or bucket lists? What's on your, to-do list of cleaning out my shed, whatever that may be. And let's just plan for all of it and make sure that your plan is going to be set up financially to help you accomplish your lifestyle goals.
Okay, so we've met Angie. She's kind of throughout the magazine. You meet Angie, learn more about her retirement journey, but it's a retirement milestone magazine. So what does that mean? Well, that means inside this magazine, we take all of the decades kind of retirement and we take different ages inside there. So we start in the 50s and it goes all the way to the 70s. So let's right now talk about the 50s. What are some of the milestone things or things people should be thinking about in their 50s?
In your 50s, you're really probably just starting to think that retirement could be real. You've amassed some kind of wealth and you're thinking about how to continue to build that wealth, and you're thinking about some of the fun stuff that might be realistic for you in retirement. So you're starting to really dream. But then you realize a dream without a plan is still just a dream. You need action, you need strategy, you need a plan throughout. And so in the magazine, we walk you through some of the things that you should be thinking strategically, financially in your 50s to mirror up, to match with what your dream is. And then there's action items you can take to really help realize the dream in your 50s.
And we've helped hundreds of families retire. One of the things that happens is if you start dreaming a little bit about retirement, and then there starts to be things that get in the way. So now you start to think, well, what about taxes? Or what do I do for healthcare? And those are things that start to make your dreams start to not be as real, or you say, well, I don't know if I can ever accomplish this. And so that's where that planning becomes important, so that you can accomplish your dreams. You can see a clear roadmap that's going to help you accomplish those things.
So each age that we hit inside the magazine has smart moves section. So in your 50s, smart moves can include getting organized, taking advantage of catch-up contributions. And then inside the magazine, there's details for each one of those ages. So we want to continue talking about the magazine, those milestones, and hear more about Angie's story. But first, I promised I'd tell you how to get a copy. Well, here it is. Here is the website. It's retiringtodaymagazine.com. All of the details are there. You can learn about the milestones and see more about Adventurous Angie and all the adventures that she goes on in retirement. We'll talk more about the magazine next. Welcome back to Retiring Today. I'm Molly Nelson here with Clint Huntrods and Lauren Merkel, and we're talking about the launch of our first magazine, Retiring Today, Your Retirement Milestone Guide. So we talked about the excitement. Angie had the bucket list items. She's checking them off. But before she got to that, there was some concern. Angie had some concern when she came in, and you talk to people about their concerns in Retire Ready calls all the time, Clint.
Yeah, in Angie's case, 47 years in the working field. So you could imagine that she knows some specific areas really well in the work that she's done, but she's never had to retire before. As she started to think more about what that could look like, it's natural to have a lot of trepidation. And just because you've never had to do it before, you don't know what all that planning is going to entail.
Yeah, and we asked her about that. We asked, what were your concerns as you got ready to retire? And here's what she had to say.
One of my biggest questions I had before I retire was, what is my 401k plan? I had a 401k plan, not a pension, but this 401k plan, is it made for me to retire soon? And I figured maybe Sean can help me with that. I knew he could. And just find out, what are my risks? Am I able to have enough money to retire in the next year, 2 years, or I have to wait? And Social Security, when it comes up, when do I pull that? Do I touch it? Do I not? So those questions just totally took over inside my mind and soul on just difficulties that I was struggling with all the time.
Those are real concerns that a lot of people have as they approach their retirement age. They're really starting to think about it more. In Angie's case, she didn't even know if she could afford to retire. She didn't know how much money she needed to retire. And like she said, does she retire now? Does she have to wait a couple years? Before she can figure that out, she had to answer a few other questions. And one of the golden questions that she just mentioned is, what does she do with her 401k plan? Because she's just been putting into this 401k plan for 40 some years, and now she has to figure out how to turn this 401k plan into a fuel that will fuel her lifestyle. And this is what most pre-retirees, all pre-retirees really are faced with, is how do you turn this pot of money that you've just been putting money into a pot of money that's going to be there at point of retirement and then down the road. So those questions have to be answered before she can answer her ultimate question of, can she afford to retire?
And we just had an individual that we were delivering a plan to last week, and in her case, she just wanted to have extra clarity before she told her boss, hey, I'm going to retire. The last thing that she was looking to do was to say, hey, I'm going to retire, and then all of a sudden decide, well, the market changed, now I feel like I have to work longer. So that clarity becomes important, and that's something that's hard to figure out in many cases on your own, like Angie had experienced.
Another concern that Angie had was about healthcare. Here's the question she had surrounding that.
Can you afford it? Can you not afford it? You could get on the internet and try to figure out which marketplace plan is going to fit for you. But I went and talked to Anna Marie, and she is so on health plans and what might be best for me. Well, she talked to me. What's your health and what do you have going on? And here's some retirement health plans. And so just take a look, because this will be your cost on the monthly rate. And it was medical and dental, if I want vision and so on. And so it was all pertained to me. I'm like, okay, well, let's just see what the number is first, because I have an idea of what is affordable for me each month. And boy, was I surprised that I could actually afford the medical plan before I turned 65 and had to go to Medicare.
Wow, that is a powerful story, you guys. So doing this analysis, sitting down with Anne Marie Morrow, our director of Medicare and long-term care, gave Angie 2 extra years for all those bucket list items.
Yeah, I always think of Anna Marie as like our secret weapon, where if there's a person that wants to retire before 65, they're concerned about it, she will help to uncover what your different options are, whether it's COBRA with your work plan or whether it's the open market. And we always say we don't let that to be the roadblock that's going to keep you from retiring. So let's map out a plan for healthcare. Let's help understand what it means from an income perspective. And in Angie's case, that got her more years of retirement that she otherwise would have been working because she felt like she had to due to healthcare.
One of the things I really like about that interview is Angie really gave us insight on her journey to discovery around healthcare. She said she went online first to look at all these different marketplace plans, and then finally she was just like, this is a lot. This is too, what does that all mean to me? Then she sat down with Anna Marie and they got it figured out, and what that gave her was confidence. It gave Angie confidence to say, I now know what my health care is going to cost, which is the biggest question mark for a lot of pre-retirees, especially before the age 65. She had that confidence. She can work that in with the rest of her plan, and that allowed her to say, it's time to retire.
Yeah, and so you might be wondering how they do it. Well, she sat down with Anne Marie and had a discussion, but there's also some tips on retiring before Medicare eligibility inside the magazine. So we give you some action steps if you're thinking about that. And guys, though Medicare feels like it's a really long ways away for those who are 55 or older, there's a lot of things that you can do right now to put yourself in a better position to retire before Medicare eligibility or at Medicare.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's just uncovering what the different options are. You know, do you have something at work? How does that interact between two spouses if you're married? And just starting to uncover more what's out there, which can be a great thing as you're just starting to think more about retirement. That's starting to become a bigger part of your mindset and what you're thinking about. Is let's just start to put some numbers to paper. Let's start to think more concretely what that could look like to help you be able to understand what your options could look like.
So if you're interested in this inside the magazine, you can go right into the 60s. So we have 65 is in there, and different action steps inside the 60s that can help set you up for retirement. It's all inside the magazine. You can download a complimentary copy at retiringtodaymagazine.com. It's all there. And of course, there's more information on Angie. She goes more in depth on how she was able to retire sooner than expected. We'll continue talking about retirement milestones next. Welcome back to Retiring Today. I'm Molly Nelson here with Clint Huntenrods and Lauren Merkel, and we are excited because we're launching our first magazine right here on the show. I mean, this is like the first look at the magazine right here, right now.
This is the very first look right here on the magazine. Make sure you download it. It's right there on your screen. Download it, get a copy. It doesn't cost you anything, but the information is a lot.
It's important information, and it features the story of a very important to us woman who we've gotten to know and really adore through this process. It's Angie. She takes us on her retirement journey, but then there's the milestones in there. So let's talk about some of the milestones that are inside this magazine. And a lot of the milestones and the smart moves for retirement action type steps have to do with tax planning, Clint.
Yeah, the sooner that you start tax planning, the better. Every calendar year that goes by that you don't have a tax plan, there could be missed opportunities. Especially with changing legislation, it's important that you understand what that means to you and to your long-term retirement plan. And this is something that when we talk with families for the first time, they have never thought about that other than being a little scared of it. Just knowing that, hey, there's a tax bill waiting for me in retirement. I know I've been deferring a lot in my 401k. I've heard about the Roth, but I don't know if I should be committing to that or not. So that's often in the back of their minds. That's something we want to bring full circle, help them get clarity around that. And part of how we do that is by looking long-term within your plan. What's the projected required minimum distributions that you're going to face down the road? What other changes are going to happen in your plan from an income perspective? And then that longer term information helps us make those short term decisions that are in front of us right now, which could be, how do I contribute within my 401k, pre-tax, or do I do Roth?
And I also think sometimes we're guilty of saying, like, you should be thinking about long-term tax planning. Well, guess what? Most people aren't thinking about long-term tax planning. I think the key is to sit down with a professional who's like, hey, have you thought about this? Here's what we can do. You, as the person getting ready to retire, aren't necessarily thinking about taxes. You know they're coming, but it's you don't have that working knowledge of how it goes.
No, you still working. You're just thinking about how do you get through the day. You're probably still trying to figure out how to get the kids through what the kids are going through. And then you're saying one day sooner than later, you want to retire. What's that going to look like? Tax planning is not really on the top of your mind. And the other thing is you don't know what you don't know. That is the importance of sitting down with a professional who does know and is willing to educate and communicate with you in a way that makes sense and is specific to you. Because especially those who are in their 50s, when they're thinking about retirement and planning, they're thinking about the investments. You're thinking about your 401k plan. You're thinking about not how to take money out of it, but how to put money in and what does that look like. You're thinking about when we go through this next recession, how do you not lose 30 to 40%? So you have to delay retirement for another 5 to 6 years, like what happened to a lot of people when we went through the Great Recession of 08. Those are the things that you're thinking about, which is important. You need to think about that, but don't just think about it. Take action and build all the other elements of the plan into it.
Yeah, and a great action you can take is the magazine. It's easy. You can go right to the website, you get a complimentary copy, and then there's going to be some strategies in there, or at least there's some stuff that you can start talking to a professional about. Maybe you didn't have the words, or you didn't know exactly what you wanted, but here's what you know. You want to have a bucket list like Angie, at least I do when I retire, and I also want to make the most of the money that I've worked hard to save. So those are things that two people know when they sit down with you. Then you start bringing up things like, hey, RMDs will hit. I know it's a long ways away, but if we think about them now, maybe we can put a little more spendable money into your pocket in retirement.
Yeah, and in so many cases, families are thinking about it, but they don't know what it means. When you have a chance to actually get that plan built out, you can see it for yourself. That's when it really starts to come to life. You can understand the impact of some of those different tax decisions that you have in front of you. And what I love about the magazine is it's just an easy way to start that conversation. You can read about Angie, you can start to read about the milestones and what you should be thinking about in your 50s, 60s, and 70s, which can be a great way to just start to get more information to help you on your retirement journey.
I met with a longtime client last week, and he's turning 73, which is his RMD age. And we were talking about his RMD strategy. He's like, 10 years ago when we started meeting with you, you were talking to us about these RMDs. I was like, well, I don't have to worry about RMDs. What's RMDs? And we talked about his plan, how they're taken care of, how they're smaller than what they would have been. And he was like, I'm glad we talked about the RMDs 10 years ago and didn't wait until this year.
Yeah, and smaller RMDs fund the bucket list. So we go back to Angie, because what I love about Angie is like, I've got bucket list items big and small, and before I could actually go ahead and push that retirement button, those are her words in the interview, push the retirement button, I wanted to be able to fund those things. So here's what she has to say about funding those bucket list items.
I feel comfortable in my retirement plan with what I want to do and what I want to spend. I don't have to have a worry in the back of my mind. So I feel real comfortable with spending the money that I need to for equipment or clothes or shoes, the gloves, to make my small retirement ideas and dreams come true.
And you heard Angie talk about gloves. I mean, she's talking about gardening gloves and golf gloves, and her adventures are big. There's zip lining, there's hot air balloons, but there's small stuff. And that retirement plan gave her permission to fund the small stuff and the big stuff.
And so many times families are concerned about that. I don't want to retire if that means I have to cut back on all these fun things that I want to do. You know, every day in retirement is like a weekend. So in some cases, families are going to spend more, sometimes they're going to spend less. But it's just important to know what your lifestyle goals are and that you have a plan in place to help you accomplish those.
Okay, so Angie talked about, when I sat down with her, pushing the retirement button. Those were her words. And what helped her push the retirement was a retirement plan. But if you're watching, you might be wondering, what is a retirement plan? Well, this guy helps people build them all the time. So try to explain to someone, what is that retirement plan that you're able to hand over to Angie that helped her, fund that fun adventures?
What I really liked about what she said is she said she saw her retirement plan. She saw that she could retire, which is way different than what most people experience going into retirement, because the retirement plan that we create is a written plan. And so Angie didn't just get to experience Clint or me or Sean or somebody else on the team saying, Angie, it's okay, you can retire, you can afford it. She actually got to see it. And when you get to see what your retirement plan looks like, where the income's going to come from, how much you're going to receive, and how much you're going to receive 10, 15 years down the road, that really gives you the confidence to do what Angie did, which is to retire earlier than what she actually thought. Our written retirement plan is called the Retire Secure Roadmap. And there's 6 pillars to this plan. The first pillar is what you are really looking forward to. It's your lifestyle. It's all the fun stuff that you want to do in retirement, the gardening, the pickleball, the travels, all the stuff that Angie's been talking about today on the show and throughout the magazine. And then the other 5 pillars are the financial pillars that enable you, that allow you with confidence to live that lifestyle. That's the income plan, it's the tax plan, the healthcare plan, the investment plan, and the legacy plan. All 6 of those work together to give you the confidence to say, I'm done working, now I'm gonna go and live the dream.
And even in some cases, we can build you different scenarios if that's what you want to see and that's what best helps you understand your options in retirement. We recently worked with a family in designing their plan. They wanted to see, what if we spent extra money over the first 10, 12 years of retirement? So we were able to build them that scenario in addition to maybe more of a base scenario. And then they saw that out to age 90, it was a couple $100,000 difference in their plan if they spent more. And they said, well, why wouldn't we do that?
Spend, green light to spend.
Those are the go-go years.
Yeah.
They want to go.
This was a case where they didn't have big legacy goals. They were far exceeding some of those legacy goals. And that's where your income plan, your investment plan, your legacy plan are all fitting together to help them make those educated decisions, help them see what's possible in their plan.
That couple could go ziplining and hot air balloon riding with Angie. They got the funds for that now.
The adventurous couple and Adventurous Angie.
Everybody's having fun.
combination.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun in retirement. So our magazine, I like to think it's kind of fun too, because not only is there more about Angie, how she got to these bucket list items and her journey to retirement, there's the milestones in there. So we talked a little bit about building a retirement plan. What I like is each milestone kind of covers how the retirement plans are built or changed, because you can build a plan when you're 55 and it needs to be something that you can change as your life changes. You heard Clint, they can build different scenarios for people. That's covered in the magazine too. How will things change for me in my 60s and 70s on my journey to retirement? Okay, so here it is again, the URL, or the website rather, that you can download the magazine at. It's retiringtodaymagazine.com. We're so excited to launch this resource for you and all of those who are dreaming of retirement. This is Retiring Today, and we thank you for watching.